Support for WBFO comes from our members and from Asian Oriental Rugs in Williamsville. After serving the Western New York community for more than 35 years, the owners of Asian Oriental Rugs are closing their showroom of hand-knotted Oriental rugs. Open every day until their last day on June 4th. Asian Oriental Rugs is located on Transit Road in Williamsville between Maple and Klein Roads and can be reached by phone at 716-689-8200 or online at AsianOrientalRugs.com.
Hi, good morning. You're listening to WBFO. I'm Marion Heatherly. To fulfill an agreement with the Environmental Protection Agency, the Buffalo Sewer Authority is spending what will eventually amount to hundreds of millions of dollars to get rid of the overflows that occur when sewers overload in storms and dump into our waterways. This year, Authority GM Ulawali McFoy says the spending plan is $20 million. McFoy says the big focus is on projects that will keep the stormwater from entering the sewer system and eventually going into the city's treatment plant.
Our Pratt Wheeler Green Infrastructure Project. So that's going to be a streetscape where we're going to be basically taking, I think it's about 12 acres of runoff from impervious surface through the use of green infrastructure. So that is really going to transform that corridor of William Street.
Other green infrastructure projects include the rebuilding of Niagara Street and retention ponds being installed as part of the massive Northland Avenue project. This is WBFO.
Support for On Point comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston, where the program is produced, and your NPR station. Olin College of Engineering, working to revolutionize engineering education globally to inspire the next generation of technical innovators needed to solve the world's challenges. Learn more at olin.edu. And ADT Security, helping to protect families and homes for over 140 years. Learn more at ADT.com. This is On Point. I'm Sasha Pfeiffer in for Tom Ashbrook. We're getting reaction today about President Trump's decision to withdraw the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement. Listeners, let us know if you feel this move was a long time coming. Do you see it as short-sighted? What do you think the U.S. could do now to address climate change? Are you sorry, or are you feeling like it was a good move that the U.S. left? 1-800-423-8255. That's 1-800-423-TALK. You can also follow us on Twitter and find us on Facebook at On Point Radio. Joining us from Washington is Rob Meyer, who writes about climate change for The Atlantic. Also with us from Washington is Christy Goldfuss, former managing director of the White House Council on Environmental Quality under President Obama. She's now at the Center for American Progress, a liberal group. And from Hartford, Connecticut, Oren Cass, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, a conservative think tank. His work focuses in part on energy and the environment. Oren Cass, I want to read to you 3 comments that have come in on our website. These are from listeners who are disappointed by the U.S. decision. One writes, this was the most belligerent act the U.S. could have committed against the rest of the world short of bombing it. That's obviously very dramatic. Another says, leaving the Paris Accord was a self-centered action. Sorry that Americans are seen as not concerned with the world. Another person writes, I thought America was going to lead from now on. So, Oren, my question for you is, you know, there are people who support this accord but have acknowledged it was not perfect, but it's an important first step. Other people have said, yes, it has shortcomings, but symbolically it was so important for the United States to be there at the negotiating table. How do you feel about the symbolic part of this? I mean, as we've said, now it's only Syria, Nicaragua, and the United States. Symbolically, that rings, it's very difficult, I think, for people to absorb that.
Well, I think it's certainly true that the agreement was largely symbolic, and that therefore, as a result, the withdrawal is in many respects largely symbolic. I'm not especially persuaded, and I don't think many Americans are, by the idea that just because everybody else is doing it, that is therefore the reason to do it. In other words, I think there needs to be some substantive case that this is actually something that makes sense for the United States, and that's where so often these arguments for the Paris Agreement fall down. You know, I think unfortunately one problem is that going back a couple of years to when we signed this, you know, President Obama really put the U.S. in a tough spot by committing to something that wasn't really in our interest, and then just announcing that the U.S. was now a signatory without even seeking approval from Congress. You know, one reason the Constitution expects certainly formal treaties to be ratified by the Senate is that you want to make sure that when we're committing the United States to something on the international stage, there's really a strong consensus for it domestically. And so, Christy mentioned now people are worried that the United States won't keep our word. The problem there is that we had a president who made a promise that he really shouldn't have made in the first place. And so I'd rather see us correct that now than just string things along indefinitely.